All right, I'm here with Sam Lillicrap, the founder of Alignr. Sam, how you doing today?
Super good, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining the podcast. So for people that don't know you, do you want to just give like a brief introduction of yourself?
Yes, I'm Sam from London. I've been a product designer, so UX UI designer for around 10 years now. I started very young, actually. I started when I was sort of 15, 16. And ever since then, I've been working in startup companies, yeah, as a product designer, leading design teams, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Nice. What were you doing? What were you designing at 15? Were you like GeoCities early, or were you Photoshop, or what were you using?
Yeah, I was using Photoshop at that time. So I started very, very early, like when I was 12, actually. That was when the kind of web design journey started. And then when I was 15, 16, I was kind of just moving on to making websites for local businesses. And then by 17 or 18, I dropped out of college actually and got my first internship, which ended up being kind of the let's say the track to becoming sort of more interested in entrepreneurship as well. Because it was an unpaid internship. I'm not sure whether it was necessarily uh, you know allowed, but anyway, that's what happened. And I made an app for this company, and 2 months after I left, they sold it for 250,000. So
What?
yeah,
Dang.
and
So,
I didn't get
they
any part of that, so it kind of made me like fueled me up and it gave me some motivation. And from there, I kind of went along my way and became a freelancer contractor and worked for agencies before, yeah, but going on to do my own thing and work with companies just as a contractor.
Man, I guess maybe Acquire needs to get some unpaid interns and just make some apps. Jeez. That's awesome. Congrats. Well, so you had a liner acquired. I'd love to kind of dive into that. Do you want to just kind of give a brief overview of what it did, what problem it solved, all that fun
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, so Aligner is effectively posture recognition technology. So effectively, it uses your webcam to detect your posture as you're working at your computer. So it will detect whether you're slouching, whether your neck is craning forward. So they're the two sort of main metrics it tracks: how much you're slouching and the neck crane.
How's my posture right now?
I mean, it's looking good, but I can't tell because it's hard for me to say. Hard for me to say, but it looks good. But the problem is, of course, during lockdown, that's when I built it. Um, a lot of people were working from home and not necessarily having good chairs or anything like that. So that's sort of where the idea came from. And actually, I'd started up a startup company before that, which was using computer vision technology, to the same sort of technology to do the measurement of the breath for meditation applications. So I kind of
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. So I used what I learned there and applied it to a different model, still in health tech, which is a passion of mine.
Yeah, I'm looking at the website now. It looks like an app maybe I should use. Because I don't want to have scoliosis when I'm older. I spend quite a bit of time at a computer. So this is awesome. You built a fantastic product, it looks like.
Thank you.
And it was acquired. So tell me about that part.
Hmm.
You list on Microcore. How'd you find, the buyer to purchase this?
Yeah, so I think maybe my case might be slightly different to other people's because this was basically pre-revenue, effectively. So I was kind of looking to sell it because I'm very focused on kind of just my agency and that sort of thing. And yeah, the listing process was super simple, to be honest. I put it up, and I think within sort of maybe 3 to 4 months, I got the first LOIs. And yeah, and from there on, the process was pretty simple, actually.
Nice. In terms of, transferring the assets, what sort of tips would you give to other founders, given that, you built this, it looks pretty complex. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's not. Um, Tell me about like the transferring of assets and if you could do anything different or if you have any tips. How would you
Mm.
handle that again?
Yeah, I think the transfer of assets was relatively simple actually. I kind of got on a call with the buyer, and we completed it all within, I'd say, an hour and a half, basically. Just transferring, from my email to his email address, the Heroku instances, which is the tech stack we were using, GitHub, the repository, all that sort of stuff. And it was very simple. I think maybe the toughest part to handle is the transfer, especially when you've got, like, let's say, a sort of proprietary technology that's not well understood, or there's not any kind of there's nothing out there that is very similar. And so documenting that and making sure that's understood as well by other developers or for other developers is also was a challenge. But what I did is I used Loom. So I basically went through kind of, this connects to this controls that on a screen recording, for those who don't know what Loom is. And that really helped speed up the process, because then he could just basically take this to other developers if he needs to, and then he doesn't have to do any of the explaining effectively.
I love that advice. Did you record that Loom before or after you found the buyer?
It was after, yeah.
Nice. One tip for those listening that I've seen work really effectively is kind of recording like a Loom as you go live. I might require just kind of going over the tech stack, common questions, because most buyers have the same questions, like how are you finding your customers? What is the tech stack? How complex is this? What assets are included in the sale? Who are you? That's a big one, because there's a big trust factor in terms of, there's a saying, you can't do a good deal with a bad person, by Warren Buffett. So I love that you created a Loom video, because it can solve so many problems in terms of, questions, and just making the buyer comfortable in terms of how you transition everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So good job there. I guess my next question would be, since you've gone through an acquisition, what was maybe like a couple things you do differently, or just general tips you'd give to other founders that are looking to sell their businesses?
Yeah, I suppose in terms of tips, I'd always say that don't underestimate the power of design in an acquisition, or when you're building a startup in some kind of way, because my startup was pre-revenue, and I think having a good user experience definitely plays into the fact that the conversion rate is going to be better, and the churn rate is going to be less. So that's kind of one of the first things I would say. In terms of kind of other tips, or what I would do differently, I would actually make sure that you tell your bank before you're going to do the acquisition that you're going to do the acquisition. That's something I didn't do, and it actually sort of backfired. And they were kind of like asking questions: where's this payment coming from? It's coming from escrow, but we don't know what the payment's for, all that sort of stuff. So that's one thing that I think maybe maybe they will think about it, but I didn't think about that. And it kind of just caused a little bit more confusion and stuff. So definitely before you complete the acquisition, I would tell your bank that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, not the worst problem. You're gonna have money coming in. Yeah, could be worse.
Yeah.
Tell me about so you sold Alignr. Again, huge congrats on that. And then you're working on something new. Tell me about that a little bit.
What I'm working on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now I run Transcend Studios, which is my UX UI design agency, with a main focus on actually improving the UX and UI of Web3 services. As you may or may not know, right now they're not particularly the most easy to use things. So at the moment we're working on kind of products in that space at the moment.
Nice. What's like the most common issue you see with like Web3 products in terms of like design? That's such a hard question, but I don't know.
No, I've got an answer for it. Honestly, the hardest problem is getting people to understand like what cryptography is, and why you have these kind of like, these seed words, which are effectively you let's say your password for your keys. Getting them to really understand why they need to do this stuff is difficult. And then the fact that they now have like self-custody of their assets places more kind of pressure, let's say, on the end user to make sure that they're keeping everything safe themselves. And so, yeah, making that experience easier and more understandable is probably one of the key things that needs to happen at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I think we've definitely seen that with a few exchanges, going down, where if people had held, this is a total, we're going taking total tangent,
Yeah.
but if they had held custody of their own, using an offline wallet, or even just an online wallet, anything except keeping it on an exchange, you could have prevented losing crypto assets. So
Yeah.
I built a crypto company like 2 years ago, so I was deep into that
Right.
space. So good stuff, Sam. I guess that's kind of all I got. Quick and easy. Congrats again on the sale. And I guess from here, if people want to get in contact you because they're working on a Web3 product and maybe they want some UI UX help, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, you can either go to transcend.studio, which is the website, and contact us from there, or you can just get me at Twitter, which is at Sam Lillicrap.
Right on. I'll put that in the show notes. Well, all right,
No,
Sam. Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, and congrats again on the acquisition, man. I'm rooting for you.
thank you so much. Cheers.
All right, see you, bud.